Hey everybody. In the last 2 months, there have been two fatal aircraft accidents involving pilots flying on autopilot in icing conditions. I'd like to talk to you about that today and see what we can learn from it. My name is Kerry McCauley. Welcome to my channel. Now, the first crash occurred on February 6th. It was a Schedule 135 flight from Unalakleet to Nome, Alaska. The pilot had leveled off at 4,000 feet. He was about 32 miles southeast of Nome when ATC called him and told him that the airport was closed, or the runway was closed, due to snow removal. Basically, they're applying the runway. At that point, the ATC controller also told him that if he wanted to slow down, that would be acceptable. Basically telling him if he flew slow enough, the airport might be opening and by the time he got there, and he wouldn't have to do a hold. It made sense to the pilot, so he reduced power and slowed down. Shortly thereafter, the plane stalled and it entered a flat spin, which he was unable to recover from. The second crash occurred just a couple of days ago. It was in a TBM en route from Iowa to Anoka County, Minnesota. The pilot had started his descent, shooting the approach, reduced power, and about 4.5 miles from the runway, the airplane stalled, entered a spin, and came out of the clouds in almost completely vertical position, impacted a house in Brooklyn Center, killing the sole occupant, the pilot. Coincidentally, that was about 1.5 miles from the house that I grew up in, and Anoka County is where I did all my flight training in, so I'm very familiar with the area. Now, both of these flights, you could tell that both pilots were on autopilot at the time and flying in icing conditions. The icing conditions were a lot heavier in Alaska than in the TBM crash. I think it was moderate in Alaska, and they were just reporting light rime icing in the clouds for the Anoka crash. But both cases, there was icing involved. Now, the primary cause of both of these stalls was the pilot reducing power too much while on autopilot and failing to monitor his airspeed close enough. Basically, what happens in this situation is the autopilot is asked to maintain an altitude or attitude that the engine power setting won't support. And when this happens, the autopilot's just trying to hold altitude or hold whatever attitude it was set at, and the airspeed slowly decays until the plane finally stalls. Now, you got to wonder, how can an experienced pilot fail to do something as basic as monitor your airspeed? Well, it's surprisingly easy, and there's a couple different reasons for it. Number one is complacency. Pilots flying really capable, beautiful airplanes. You've got a nice glass cockpit, a real powerful turbine engine. It's certified for known ice, so you're not afraid of flying in the ice. You've got it set on autopilot, and you're just sitting back, fat, dumb, and happy, thinking that whatever you do doesn't really matter because the autopilot's taking care of everything, and you're just kind of along for the ride, sort of as a passenger, watching the airplane do everything for you. In that case, it's real easy to fail to maintain vigilance on all your engine and flight instruments. The second thing is your common distractions. Checking the weather, taking a look at your approach, whatever else. It's very easy to get distracted while you're on approach on autopilot. You're not, doing your scan. You don't have to. The autopilot's got it. And the third reason is something a lot of guys don't think about, and that's noise canceling headsets. Some of the beautiful noise canceling headsets they got out there, like the Bose A20 that I love flying with, do a great job of noise canceling, And when you're flying a turbine engine or a jet, cruise power and idle sound surprisingly the same. And when you've got the headset canceling out the noise, it's pretty much always quiet. So you don't have that same backup of a noisy engine or a quiet engine you do with a piston. So it's pretty easy to kind of just forget that, the power setting isn't going to tell you what it's doing with the noise if you're wearing a noise canceling headset. Now, I know a lot of you thinking, yeah, it's easy to get distracted, but you still got to be a pretty crappy pilot to not do something as basic as keep track of your airspeed. But let me tell you, there's been thousands and thousands of pilots over the years that have made this mistake. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm one of them. Luckily, it's all on video. Because a few years ago, I was on the Discovery Channel series Dangerous Flights, where they would follow us around the world, me and a bunch of other pilots as we ferried airplanes. And I was on a ferry trip ferrying a Phenom from Australia to Las Vegas. And coming out of Vladivostok, I stalled the Phenom. Basically, didn't keep track of my airspeed while it was on autopilot. Let's go to the video and you'll see exactly what happened.
The runway rocks missed the engine.
She's on GPS doing the departure, 200 knots.
But they may have hit something else.
Cabin. 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 Cabin.
Stop the climb. Stop the climb right here.
Moments after leaving a Russian runway,
Autopilot.
Level off.
Carrie and Marcio are in a full-blown emergency.
We lost pressurization.
Autopilot.
Okay, tell that we need to maintain altitude right now. Slow down.
The jet is losing cabin pressure.
Autopilot.
They need to stop their climb to keep from losing consciousness. But there's an Airbus closing in fast, and the control tower wants them out of the way.
November 777 Bravo. Foxtrot climb initially 9,100 meters. You are being followed by Airbus 330, 10 miles behind.
Just forget about him. Fly the plane for me, please. Maintain altitude and fix this ship. I have the plane.
Carrie's a prop pilot flying his first ever jet, and this is trial by fire.
Negative. We have a pressurization problem right now. We need to hold altitude for a minute. We'll advise.
Foxtrot, what's the problem?
We have a pressurization problem. I'll get back to you in just a minute. Slow. 200 knots, 200 knots, 200 knots.
777 Bravo. Foxtrot.
While Carrie controls the jet, Marcio tries to troubleshoot.
November 777 Bravo. Foxtrot.
Slow down. Slow down.
So basically, the second time that Marcio tells me to slow down was because I hadn't slowed down enough, obviously. You know, I leveled off, took control of the airplane. I'm hand flying because that's what I'm comfortable with. I'm not typed in the jet, not really up to speed on the G1000 at this point just yet, as well as I should be. So I was just, fastest thing for me to do to control the jet is hand fly it. But it got going too fast, and Marcio really wanted to slow down. He reaches down, and he brings both throttles to idle to get us to slow down faster. Thinking that me being the pilot flying, as soon as we get down to the 200 knots he wants, I'm going to bring the throttles back up. And I, being the new guy, thought that's where he wanted the throttles, so I just left him alone. Not saying that as an excuse, but saying what happened, because what happens next is 100% my fault. I'm the pilot flying, so I'm the one supposed to be monitoring the engine instruments and not being distracted.
What level do you need?
1,800 meters. Which oxygen mask on?
1,100 meters, fly at almost 3.
Under pressure, Carrie's fallen back on his old skills.
And the reason only one of us put the oxygen mask on, we were only going through 12,000 feet, but he didn't know if we were going to, for some reason, climb higher, and we just want, you know, it was actually a pretty good move. At least one of us is on oxygen, so we won't both pass out if we lose track of our altitude as well as our airspeed.
Flying the plane by hand.
Autopilot on? Autopilot on.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
The computerized plane is back on autopilot,
Autopilot.
but Carrie's got it on the wrong setting. He quickly corrects,
I have it.
Autopilot.
but in the confusion,
All right, so at this stage, I'm suffering from all three of the things that I had mentioned before. I'm a little complacent because Marcio set the power. We're on autopilot. It's a jet. This is a great autopilot, very capable. I've suddenly kind of become a passenger, even though I'm the pilot flying. In addition to that, I'm wearing my Bose headset. I can't hear anything. The engine noise sounds exactly the same in cruise as it does at idle, so I don't have that normal input I would have gotten from a piston plane. Being at idle would have been way too quiet. And the third thing is I'm completely distracted. I've got my oxygen mask on. I'm arguing with ATC because they've got an Airbus coming up behind us. They cut out a bunch of their transmissions, but I had about 3 or 4 transmissions with them, trying to convince them that we could not climb yet because we had to fix our problem first. Plus, I'm watching Marcio mess with the pressurization. You know, I'm watching what he's doing, trying to see if he's getting it figured out. Not doing my job, which is monitoring the instruments. So you'll see what happens.
He loses track of his airspeed.
Stall. 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 Stall.
Autopilot.
Marcio has no choice but to take back the controls. He powers the plane out of the potentially deadly stall.
Are you okay? Yeah. Pay attention, okay?
What the hell was that?
Oh, you forgot to look at its speed.
I don't know.
That's what happened. Okay, there you go. Easy does it, puppy. Easy. There we go, that's better. Easy.
I screwed up. I've never flown anything like that before. I barely know how to shut the door on the thing, so I've got a little bit of catching up to do. And that's how fast and easy that can happen. I mean, I fell into the exact same trap that got that Caravan and the TBM pilot. Reduced the throttle on autopilot, sitting back fat, dumb, and happy. Didn't hear a thing. There was no buffeting, no stall horn, just a stall and the autopilot kicking off. And it was 100% my fault. I got distracted. And you can't do that when you're flying anything, but especially big expensive jets or TBMs or Caravans, stuff like that, where you're sitting on autopilot and you can't hear anything because you got a noise canceling headset on, you've got distractions going on. You have to maintain situational awareness and monitor your flight instruments. Now, I hope this video helps somebody. Maybe somebody can not make the same mistake I did. Let's just hope so. I mean, ever since that one, I really, every time I'm on autopilot, I don't just sit there and act like a passenger. I'm watching what's going on. All right, well, that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to keep your speed up, especially on autopilot.